My bold prediction was
What?
the Ravens will win the Super Bowl. That's a good prediction.
That's kind of bold.
I
said
agree
that
with
last
that.
year. It was bold last year when I said
I agree
this
with
year they're the favorites.
I think the Ravens, of the three teams, the Bills, Detroit, Ravens, I got Baltimore. And I'm riding with Baltimore this year. I think this will be the year
week.
that
Spoiler.
yes, spoiler alert.
Their wideouts are really good. Their offensive line is really good. I mean, they're gonna score 30-plus points a game again.
They've been contenders. They've been dominant. But they've also been cursed. For the last 5 years, the Baltimore Ravens have built a machine, powered by shrewd drafting, elite coaching, and the most electric quarterback in all of football. And yet, heartbreak. Again and again. The doubters have been vocal, but the team haven't been listening. And now, in 2025, it's time to admit that the Baltimore Ravens are the scariest team in the NFL. Just 2 years ago, a retooling Baltimore Ravens team managed to make it all the way to the AFC Championship game, where they shockingly abandoned the run and lost a defensive battle to the Chiefs. In response to that disappointment, they brought in Titans legend Derrick Henry as an upgraded running back over J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. The additional juice in the run game made all the difference, as, despite a general lack of meaningful moves otherwise for the Ravens, they took over the league in the regular season once again. After a scary 0-2 start, they ripped off 5 wins in a row on the back of 500-plus yard rushing games for Henry and an all-time performance by Lamar over the Bengals, and another 4-win run to end the season. Their 12-5 record was good for a second AFC North title in a row, and they entered the playoffs with their hair on fire. They thrashed Pittsburgh with almost 200 yards rushing from King Henry, but it all came crumbling down against the Bills. After they had blown out Buffalo in Week 4, the Ravens entered too cocky and beat themselves in the divisional round, with the game-ending drop by Mark Andrews sending Baltimore home for the season. While they had Super Bowl aspirations once again, the ending was as heartbreaking as it was abrupt. Even with the tough ending, the Ravens were still the scariest team in football other than the Eagles in 2024. What made them so great was their offense, which may be uncharacteristic for Baltimore, but beneficial, with the best 1-2 punch in football under center. Lamar threw for over 4,000 yards and 41 touchdowns to just 4 interceptions, and tacked on 915 rushing yards and 4 more ground scores. All that, while Derrick Henry rushed for just under 2,000 yards and 16 touchdowns. The Ravens receivers developed nicely, with budding star Zay Flowers going for 1,000 yards and making his first Pro Bowl, Rashad Bateman becoming an elite red zone threat, and Isaiah Likely threatening Mark Andrews' job for Baltimore's tight end 1, even if he didn't quite finish the job. Defensive captain Roquan Smith had a down year, but was still impactful as his unit rallied in the back half of the season, with rookie Nate Wiggins being an absolute standout as a shutdown guy. 6 interceptions on the year for Marlon Humphrey made him a sleeper defensive player of the year candidate, while Kyle Van Noy posted his first ever 10-sack season with 12.5 at age 33. Despite all of this success and some commanding wins, the mountain still hadn't been summited, and there was more work to be done to improve the team. The 2025 offseason was about as quintessentially Ravens as it gets. Draft well, sign some quality, low-money free agents, and focus on developing talent and chemistry. The first part of that came when free agency initially opened. Obviously, Baltimore made a splash the year before by bringing in Henry, so the media loved them to be potential suitors for guys like Milton Williams, Cooper Kupp, or Mekhi Becton. Instead, they stuck to the winning formula, signing DeAndre Hopkins and Cooper Rush. Hopkins, well past his prime, is a veteran receiver with the potential to still make big plays in a young locker room, and Rush is an experienced backup QB to keep the wheels turning if Lamar ends up banged up. Before the draft, they also added corner Chidobe Awuzie as a reinforcement to their secondary, and Joseph Noteboom as a patch on the O-line. No big moves, but holes getting filled going into the draft. Entering with more picks than he knew what to do with, Eric DeCosta made a ton of moves, trading back several times for future considerations, but Baltimore still got their guys. While the world was focused on the Shedeur Sanders slide, the Ravens selected Malachi Starks, a safety out of Georgia who has the ceiling to be the next leader of their defense right alongside Kyle Hamilton. In the second round, they took beleaguered pass rusher Mike Green, Now, we don't have the time or the proper platform to address the very serious allegations against Green, but on the football side, he has the skill to be a monster for the Baltimore pass rush. As a former receiver, Green bulked up and transitioned to linebacker, using his agility and explosiveness to ruin an outside blocker's day. If he can keep his nose clean, he's going to finally be the answer at pass rush that the Ravens have been filling with cheap veterans for years. The last pick of day 2 was Emory Jones Jr. from LSU. The tackle and swing O-lineman had been projected as a potential first-round pick following the 2023 season, but was overshadowed by Will Campbell's dominant year and more penalties than would be preferred in 24. However, Jones still showed more than enough talent for the Ravens to be stoked when he fell to them at 91st overall. He promises to either replace Patrick McCarry as Baltimore's go-to backup lineman, or to bump into right guard and start next to Roger Rosengarten. The rest of Baltimore's draft was characteristically wild, with 8 day 3 picks, including a potential replacement for Patrick Queen and Teddy Buchanan, more corner depth in Bilal Kone and Robert Longerbeam, and even a replacement for Justin Tucker. And yes, the Tucker developments are also concerning, and it's questionable that the Ravens were so cagey with releasing him, but Tyler Loop does look to be a solid replacement at kicker. Overall, Baltimore found success in the draft at both improving in the secondary, their primary need, and deepening their roster from all angles. They also appear confident in their coaching, having extended John Harbaugh for another 3 seasons. While the fan base loves to hate on him, Harbaugh has proven himself to be exceptional for team culture, and he's almost exclusively coached winning seasons and playoff appearances. Behind him, defensive coordinator Zach Orr is entering his 2nd year, much wiser than when he started. Despite struggles to start 2024, Orr adjusted well, moving Marlon Humphrey to the nickel spot and bumping Kyle Hamilton into safety again. He still played all over, but the former Notre Dame stud caught fire after the change, and the secondary stopped being the team's weak link, resulting in the defense being the NFL's best by the numbers after week 10. To add more brainpower into the already thriving locker room, Colts legend Chuck Pagano has come out of retirement to join the Ravens staff this offseason in an attempt to win another ring. On top of that, former Raven Anthony Levine Sr. has also joined the fun, following in Zach Orr's footsteps as defensive minds from the former player's perspective. And, most recently, they've locked down their guys, signing Derrick Henry to an extension to take him to the end of his career in Baltimore, exercising Tyler Lindenbaum's 5th-year option, and declining Kyle Hamilton's to prioritize his rookie extension. Good business all around, and the Ravens love to take care of their homegrown players who develop and go above and beyond. In terms of the 2025 outlook for the Ravens, their division is about as winnable as ever, even with the undying Steelers and offensive juggernaut in Cincinnati. Starting with the Browns, well, they're still the Browns. With 4 quarterbacks on their roster, no clear starter, and questions on the O-line and in the secondary, the team is a house of cards in a tornado warning. Myles Garrett is paid and happy, and Mason Graham does look like a great pickup for their line, but there are too many other questions. Unless Shedeur Sanders can prove the haters wrong, or Flacco has one more year of hero ball in him, Cleveland can be penciled in for 11 to 15 losses and 2 to Baltimore. Next, there's Pittsburgh. Aaron Rodgers has finally graced them with his presence, but if his past performances in New York are anything to go by, it seems unlikely he can suddenly get them over the line. Pittsburgh drafted well, picking up Caleb Johnson as a new lead back and some great defensive prospects. But without security on offense, Mike Tomlin may finally be staring down the barrel of his first losing season. The timing couldn't be any worse either, as Lamar and the Ravens have finally stopped beating themselves when they play the Steelers, beating them once in season and again in the playoffs in 2024. Finally, there's the Bengals, the NFL's favorite talking point, even though they only get one home primetime game in 2025. They finally decided to pay both Jamar Chase and T. Higgins to keep them and Joe Burrow happy, but the rest of their roster is about to be scrapped in order to cover that tab. From the already questionable O-line to a defense that wasted 4 30-point games from the offense, they might be getting even worse as Trey Hendrickson's conversations get less and less civil, and first-round rookie Shamar Stewart has a disastrous start to his pro career thanks to a messy contract dispute. Despite their crazy amount of talent, the Bengals have as many questions surrounding them as the 2 inferior teams in their division. Oh, and Joe Burrow is 1-6 against Lamar Jackson in the regular season. The Ravens' floor for their divisional record is 4-2. And while their newly revealed schedule is no joke, the tough first couple of games is canceled out by the divisional freebies they should get. From top to bottom, there aren't any more on-paper flaws on this Baltimore roster. Obviously, you've known you had the guy under center for the past 7 years. They have one of the 2 best running backs in football. The receivers are quietly underrated, especially with Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman popping off in 2024 and DeAndre Hopkins being added as a 3rd option. No one develops tight ends like the Ravens, and their O-line has finally completed its rebuild, with all 5 starters looking like real NFL-level guys for the first time in several years. On the defense, Nnamdi Madubuike anchors a line that will finally have some outside pass rush from something other than blitzes, and Roquan Smith has a new running mate who he can simulate his success from alongside Patrick Queen. Finally, the Ravens might have the single best secondary in football, or at least on par with what the Broncos are looking to field. Year 2 Nate Wiggins already looks like a man coverage demon, while Marlon Humphrey has flipped his own page back to quietly dominant, and Kyle Hamilton and Malachi Starks can be dominant ball hawks however they see fit. Unless Tyler Loop turns into the world's worst rookie kicker, there isn't a single hole in the roster that won't be found and patched in training camp. Peeling away the purple-tinted glasses, the Ravens are by no means perfect. The scheming issues with the defense could rear their heads again, and injuries were a critical problem for the franchise all through the early 2020s. But when you look at the roster, the schedule, and the current state of the league, the path to the Super Bowl hasn't been clearer in the Mahomes era. The Chiefs are rattled from a Super Bowl loss. The Eagles will need to innovate with a new offensive coordinator to stay competitive, and the rest of the AFC has some kind of major question or concern on their roster or in their program. Even though the Tucker news was jarring, he's now in the rearview mirror, and the Ravens should be on the shortlist of Super Bowl 60 favorites. However, if they fall short again, a titanic shakeup may be needed. But what do you guys think? Is 2025 Super Bowl or bust for the Ravens, and what team in the league has a better shot than them at winning it all? Let us know in the comments.